Hey everybody, you see me down here in the little corner. I've got screen and screen. I told you I was going to try to do a video if I could this week on resumes and a couple of tips and tricks. So here I am doing that. This may be an ongoing thing where we kind of give some tips and tricks on resumes or cover letters or interviews or elevator speeches, that kind of thing throughout the week, throughout the term. That's my hope at least. Some weeks maybe busier than others because I do have other classes that I'm teaching, but that is my goal. So starting out, we're talking about resumes. And first, I want to say I do like what I'm seeing as far as your resumes in discussion now. That's good. I think many of you are moving in the right direction. At least you're understanding or you're kind of grasping the spirit of this assignment, right? It's all about trying to tweak your resume to meet a certain job opening, right? And so you may have a resume here that looks great, but you need to kind of change things around a little bit just so that it may meet certain standards or may fit a certain kind of opening just a little better. Now, that doesn't mean you're lying. That doesn't mean you're making things up. You certainly don't want to do that. But on the other hand, you don't want to just have a resume and say, okay, this is my resume, and I'm going to use this for everybody, because it may not be as effective as you think. People just kind of assume, I've got a resume, somebody looked at it, somebody at Career Services, they thought it was awesome, and then I'm just going to go on my way. You need to be keeping up with this, and you need to be very mindful about how you present your resume based on the kind of jobs you're looking at. So, why am I in Microsoft Office? Or not Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word. I'm here because this is a great place to start if you don't have a resume right now, or if you're looking at maybe designing a new one, or if you have you want to help with cover letters, things like that. Microsoft Word is a great place to start. So when I open up Word here, I can go to More Templates, and when I click on More Templates, it gives me all these different template options, and I can search, business cards, flyers, whatever, and resumes and cover letters. In fact, right now I'm just going to search for resumes, just to get specifically resumes. But you're going to get a lot of templates here that you can start. You can start your own resume off right with one of these. Now, with that said, Word likes to show you all the bells and whistles, all the really cool things you can do with a resume. It doesn't mean you should do them, though. For instance, you've got a couple here that are pretty elaborate and have some pictures. For the most part, I mean, this looks nice. For the most part, though, you want to avoid things like that. You want to avoid things that are too elaborate, okay? Less is more, usually, when it comes to resumes. Now, I say that, little caveat, usually, because sometimes if you're in a very creative field, you're in graphic design or marketing or something like that, you may want something that has a little bit more punch to it, an image or some color. For the most part, though, most of you are not going to be doing that kind of thing. So with that said, though, there still are plenty of cool templates here. Now, I also do this because I want to show you a couple things that you should keep in mind when it comes to resumes and kind of tweaking your resume. So I'll pull this one up here. You can see it a little better. For the most part, resumes have a general kind of layout. You've got your name here. Usually it's in a larger font. You're going to have your contact information there. A couple things about that. Contact information, you want to make sure you have a professional looking email address. This is not the place where, you're talking about, some kind of silly, goofy kind of name that you have, and you've had that Yahoo account since you were 15 years old. Now's the time to have a very plain, straightforward one with your name, and that's pretty much it. Okay. You're also going to want to include things here, or at least consider including things here, like maybe a link to your LinkedIn profile. That's a nice place to put it here. For the most part, resumes are going to be read online. They're going to be read on a computer. They're not going to be printed out all the time. And so people can click a link and they can go to your LinkedIn. They can go to your MyCred. You may want to in fact, I'd encourage you to put a link to your MyCred there as well. Other than that kind of stuff, we talked about having a summary or an objective up there. And again, it can depend a little bit on the kind of job you're looking for, but it's not a bad thing. Then we get into things like experience and education. And it's here where there's a bit of room for for some, not creativity, but to change things up a little bit. If you don't have a lot of job experience, if you don't have a lot of job experience, at least in your field, you may want to start with your education and put that front and center. If you do have a lot of job experience and you think, boy, my job experience is maybe more important than my degree. I'm just getting the degree so I can look good on paper. In a case like that, you're going to want to put your experience first. Make sure that your experience is listed in what's called reverse chronological order. So the most recent thing or the job you're doing right now, top, and then from there, kind of going backwards. Any job that you're no longer doing, you want to make sure those are in the past tense. Okay, so like facilitated, managed, operated, those kinds of things. You want to just keep that in mind. Skills, this is an area that can be debatable. You want to put skills in there, but what kinds of skills? Sometimes people say Microsoft Office would be great. Others say, well, but at a certain level, beyond entry level, you may not put those kinds of things because it's assumed you know Microsoft Office. So it really depends on the kind of job you're looking for. Some people will say you definitely want to put how many words per minute you type. Other people, myself included, say maybe not that, okay? Because, again, sometimes it's assumed if it's an office job, you can type well. It's just going to be assumed that. And they may look at your words per minute and you say it's 35 words per minute. I was up from 15, but 35 to them would be like, oh my gosh, that's half of what we would expect. So you want to be careful with how those things kind of present you, essentially. Activities, you want to make sure that the things in there are activities that tell the story about you as a professional. So if you're going to talk about some of your volunteer experience, that's good. But find ways to try to tie that into you being a professional person. Okay. So a bunch of these resumes, and even if you don't choose these kinds of resumes, it might be good here just to look around to see how they're organized, right? Just to see how Word kind of puts these things together. That can be very helpful at times. There's a couple things that I want to highlight too. One is there's always been this belief that a resume has to be on one page. That's nonsense. It's just not true. You don't want a resume to go on for 5 pages, but don't let anyone tell you that you have to cramp everything onto one page if you have a lot of experience. Now, for many of you, it is going to be one page because you don't have a lot of experience yet. No problem there. For others, you have a lot of work experience. It's okay if it goes to 2 pages. Don't let anyone tell you that that's a bad thing. It's all about organization. It's all about looking good. And that gets to my next point. And this one's a big one. And it seems like maybe it shouldn't be, but it is. And that is grammar. Okay, how good should your grammar be on something like a resume or a cover letter? Well, perfect. It should be perfect. Yeah, maybe you have one comma that's not right or one period. Okay, but for the most part, remember, you are presenting yourself as a professional. For the most part, a lot of errors is going to be the easiest way for someone to go delete and just say goodbye. Whether you're a good employee or not, whether you have a lot of good experience or not, they're going to see a lot of errors as sloppy. Trust me, I've been on these panels before. I've looked at tons of resumes. I've been through this kind of thing a bunch, and I've taught resumes for a long, long time. Grammar matters. So if you're worried about that, you have to have people look at it, people you trust. You have to even go out there to career services, other places, and say, can you look at this and can you check it for grammar? Big, big deal. So I don't want to say too much more. I want to give you some of these tips and tricks. Hopefully we'll have more to say next week on another topic. If you have questions, if you want some more advice, if you want some more tips and tricks that I can share with you about your own resume, let me know. You can call me, you can text me, you can email me. I'd be more than happy to talk with you personally about it. Thanks, folks.